My guest this week is Emma Sherlock, COO of Sherlock Associates. We talk about her background in broadcasting and then moving on to become a protection advisor and her role today with regards to Sherlock and her position there and where she's focusing on her YouTube brand and YouTube marketing along with other digital marketing campaigns. So my guest this week is Emma Sherlock, COO of Sherlock Associates. The reason why I wanted to get Emma onto the podcast is that Sherlock, based in Cumbria, is a big brand in Cumbria, well-known mortgage protection financial advice business. But the reason why I wanted to get Emma onto the podcast was to look at they had a brand, they still have a brand, but she's really sort of focused on the brand moving forward and not just worried on repeat clients and the client bank they had already, but really focused on new business and new blood. So new blood from an advisor point of view and new business from a client point of view. So I wanted to get Emma on because she's talked about a lot about the YouTube channel that she believes in and that she's launched herself and various other digital marketing backgrounds as well, other digital marketing platforms as well. So welcome to the podcast, Emma. Are you well?
Yes, hi, thank you for having me.
Good. No, it's great for you to be here and great for you to accept the invitation to be on the Mortgage Broker Broadcast podcast. So thanks very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a guest on here today. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm great. We're busy here at Sanchez Associates, sorting out new CRM systems and dealing with lots of new business and staff development. There's a lot going on. The summer seems to have gone mad. Ever since we got back from lockdown, everything just blew up, and there doesn't seem to be any catching up with life. But it's all good, you know. It's better to be busy than have no clients.
Exactly. I think it's a very positive busy, Emma. That's the main thing rather than the negative one. So
Yeah, exactly.
good. So first of all, on being on the podcast, do you want to just give a brief introduction about who you are, and then we'll move on to Sherlock Associates in a second. But just really more importantly, first of all, just about you and your background and what you do at Sherlock.
Of course, indulge in me for a moment. So
The
I
floor is
am.
yours. The floor is yours,
This is
Emma.
all about me. Amazing. So I am Emma Sherlock. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Sanchez Associates, but I have a very different background to most people in financial services. I actually started out in broadcasting. So when I was 20, I don't even know how old I've been, about 22, I started working for the BBC as a newsreader and reporter. And I worked for the likes of BBC Tees, BBC Cumbria, BBC Newcastle. I did a short spate at BBC Five Live, a little bit at Look North on the TV every now and again. Not very often, I have to say. I wasn't really wasn't built for TV. I was built for radio. So, but I had a sort of 15-year career in the BBC. In the last 6 or 7 years of my career, I had my own show, The News Hour, on BBC Radio Cumbria, where I presented a news programme. So I held politicians to account if they'd done things wrong or if they'd done things well. I, grilled people on public spending and did some fantastic stories about money being raised for local charities and things like that. And then obviously, I won't do the whole name dropping thing, but there are lots of different celebrities that, pass through the county. Oh, I will tell you that one. David Hasselhoff came and he stayed at Holbeck Gill. Yeah, he was a great guest on the show because he is actually naturally quite funny. I don't know if he knows he's funny, but he is quite funny. So he was a lovely guest. And obviously some of the big hitters in terms of politics as well. They were always very smooth and prepared for the interview. But yes, I did that for about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And then made the decision to move into the family business, which is Sanchez Associates. It was set up by my husband's parents back in 1989. Stan Sherlock, obviously, hence the name, and his wife Sandra. And when they set it up, it was very small. It was just the two of them. And then it grew and they took on Sandra, who is the office manager. They took her on at the time as to help with the administration of the business. And she's still with us now. So she's been with us like 25 years.
Wow.
And she is the fountain of all knowledge. She knows everything. Like there's nothing Sandra doesn't know. And she's just a wonderful, wonderful woman. So we're really lucky to still have her. And then it grew from there for Sam and Sandra, and they took on a lot of self-employed advisors. Anyway, fast forward to sort of 2000 and when did I come? 2016, I think it was. And yeah, Bobby and I, Stan actually had a career-ending stroke, and Sandra retired at the same time. And Bobby was sort of shunted into the limelight in terms of being the sole director. Um, and so it became very obvious over time that a business of this size, you needed somebody else in the business helping to run it. And so there was sort of like an Emma-shaped hole cut out in Stan Sherlock Associates, and I was pushed in to fill it. And it worked really well for us at the time because I loved my career in media, and I still do love it. I think very fondly of it. And who knows, one day, you might merge the two careers. You never know. But we also had two children, very young children, and we had plans to grow our family. And so actually, it worked really well on a personal and professional level for me to bring my transferable skills into the business. I'm a very good communicator. I have a creative mind, and everything that I could do, there wasn't anybody in the business that had those strengths. Because everybody here is financial, and I don't mean that.
No, you're right. No, I'm here nodding. I'm totally agreeing with you because that's the thing is you tend to find people in financial services aren't creative. I'm not a creative person. I've been in financial services far too long. I know very, very few people, if any, that work in financial services that are creative because generally people aren't. They're not that,
Yeah,
that, that frame of mind.
and it goes hand in hand with sort of like a lot of people who are creative also have different ways of thinking about things or different ways of communicating them, whereas people who deal with numbers and advice are fairly I don't want to say black and white because that's not true, because I think there's a lot of grey in financial services actually, but it's just a different track. Your mind works on a different track, I think, to mine. And so anyway, there were a lot of skills I could bring into the business to develop the business, the people in it, to take care of people a little bit, because I think some of the staff were starting to feel a little bit neglected because there was no, we were so busy with clients, looking after clients, the staff weren't getting looked after. So yeah, so fast forward to 2016, and that's when I joined, and I trained in protection, and first of all started working in advice. I really enjoyed it, actually, the advice as well. I genuinely enjoy making sure clients are making the right decisions, and saying to them, look, this is what could happen if you don't do this. The risk is yours to take, but I can sort this out for you. I do genuinely like that process. Um, but more and more, I was sort of pulled into the running of the business rather than the advice. And so over the last 18 months, I've taken a step back from advice, and now I just help run the business. Bobby and I do it together. He has a massive client load, and he's very highly desired in terms of the world of advice. Whereas it suits me much better to look at what's the word I'm looking for? The journey of the business, or the focus of the business, and how we're going to move forward, and where we're going to look for new business, who we want to have relationships with, both in terms of individuals and other businesses, and how we really drive new business. So that's sort of where my focus is now, as well as all of the rubbish like staff contracts, HR, and all these other bits that I don't really enjoy but have to do. But, but in terms of focus, it's marketing, new business, and that sort of thing.
I think that's it. You're not going to be creative in HR, are you? You're not going to be creative in sort of that aspect of the business. Whereas it's a very different. I think like what you talked about there, which is what I didn't realize was about you starting out like doing protection, because that will be those kind of, you tend to find creative people don't always go into mortgage advice, but they do become protection advisors. It's quite funny you should sort of say that, because I know a few people that are creative that have gone on to be great protection advisors, never done a mortgage in their life, never want to do a mortgage in life, never be bought, don't want to be do anything near that. And I think it's a case of, because I don't know, like when a mortgage advisor, is it the case that you've got a problem, like you're a mortgage broker, you've got a problem, you've got a client who has a certain requirement, it's their position, and you're trying to be creative and make them fit with a particular lender, whereas
Yeah.
so you've got a set criteria, whereas when you're doing what you do in terms of marketing and stuff like that, it's not something, you've not got a problem you need to fix per se. You're not going thinking, right, this is a criteria, this is what the client is, they are a particular, this is the shape they are, I need to find a lender that will fit that shape. Whereas when you're doing protection and obviously doing the marketing side of things, you've not got a shape to fit the hole. It's just a case of you creating the shape as well, kind of thing. So I think that's why mortgage advisors never become creative or very good at creative, and normally work with third parties to then look to do their creative stuff, because they're not that, it's not their mindset, like you say, of this is the problem and this is the solution, kind of thing. That's the mortgage advisor. Whereas from a creative point of view, like you are, and your background, like that's a good part to it, really. That's like I said, being the creative part is a real sort of driving motivation for you. I can see that's more for when you're talking right now about what you do, and I can see the look on your face when you start talking about HR and other things. It's just
Yeah.
like you've got no passion or drive to do that. Whereas the creative side of things clearly is your passion. And we're going to talk about, for like towards the end of the podcast, about sort of like the new venture with what you're looking to do and using your creative skills, which again sounds absolutely amazing, and really suits what clearly suits what you, the way that you are. So yeah, it's, I think
I
giving
think what you're saying is when you've got a mortgage, like you've got a problem to fix. With protection and marketing, you haven't got a problem to fix, you've got a goal, and you're aiming towards a goal
yeah.
rather than a solution. Or and so with a solution, they're very set. You have to fit, like you say, you've got a shape, you've got to fit someone into that shape. Whereas with protection, you've got an idea, and you want them. I want all of the, when I was doing it, I want all clients to have as much protection as they can within their budget. And you've got to think of the creative ways of getting them to that goal. And sometimes they won't hit the goal you want them to, but they'll hit the goal they need. And that sort of balancing act is
Mhm.
perhaps applies itself more to the creative mind. And it's the same in marketing. You have a goal, don't you? Think, well, I want to create really great, engaging content because I know what comes of that. If it's brand awareness or leads or just allowing your clients free information or advice, but it's how you get it to them. So, like for example, you might think telling people the state pension age is actually really boring, but if you can put it in a creative image, or you can create an infograph, or you can create a video of some sort that hooks them in because of the color or because of the style, or because it's not always the information in it that will hook them in. Once you've got the eye, they'll read it, and then they've got a free piece of information, and it's your brand that's on it. So yeah, maybe I think I know what you mean by the mortgage advice, because they are. I think for me, it feels unfair to say our mortgage advisors and any mortgage advisor is not creative, because I'm sure lots of mortgage advisors are trying to think of really creative solutions for their clients. But
Mhm.
it's the I think more traditional feeling of creativity, isn't it? We're talking about like the creative flair, shall we say, and that
Yeah.
maybe that shows more in protection because you don't have a problem to fix. You have an end goal. Maybe that resonates better with the creative mind.
Mhm. Definitely. And I think the conversation you would have with your clients would be more, I'm guessing, when you're talking about the what can happen and the why, like you say, you want every client to have all the protection be totally covered, which makes total sense. But then you then being looking around their needs, which again you looking to be creative around what their needs are, and like what I talk about, the shortfalls and matching those shortfalls and looking the needs, and working that within the budget. So it is a little bit more, like you say, there is not. You're right. I'm not doing a disservice by saying mortgage brokers aren't creative, because they are, but it's a different. It's a goal. You are protection, marketing, website, like all those social media, all the things is looking for the end goal in mind, which is about, like you say, about leads or followers or whatever that goal is. You've got to sort of, you're looking to be creative to get towards that end goal, not just a case of this is my scenario. What can you do to be creative to get me that fix of, well, I need a mortgage, I need this, I need, and
Yeah, your end goal is already created for you, isn't it, by the client in terms of mortgages? You don't. There's not a lot of wiggle room in that. Wiggle room or wriggle room. Anyway, either wiggle room,
yeah,
wiggle or wriggle. I suppose you
wiggle,
could have
wiggle.
either.
I think
Yeah,
you can have either, to be fair, but I would say wiggle
wiggle
room,
room.
wiggle
Yeah,
room.
there's
Yeah.
not a lot of wiggle room in They have X amount deposit, X amount of income. They need X amount to buy the house. And I know there's a lot more to it in terms of affordability and lots of different factors that fall into it. There's not a lot of wiggle room.
We understood it. Wriggle or wiggle. We'll have a bit of a debate on that one after. It's fine. So you've given us a sort of a background about yourself and a little bit about Stan Sherlock Associates, and with obviously with with Stan and Sandra, and then and with Bobby's, and when Bobby was sort of into the limelight. So, do you want to just give us a, like, in terms of Stan Sherlock Associates, what is like that? Obviously, where is it located? You've got a. We're going to talk about the brand and things like that regarding Stan Sherlock, but just to give the listeners a picture of probably where you were, or where you are, or where you were sort of like 12 months ago before you decided to, well, mainly the folks, the podcast, to talk about how you wanted to improve the brand and really sort of give it sort of like the brand, like a new image kind of thing. So do you want to, yeah, so Stan Sherlock Associates, what is that? Where is it located? And like advisor wise and things like that?
So head office sounds very formal, doesn't it? Head office is Carlisle. We're based in Carlisle in Cumbria, and at the moment, the majority of our clients are sort of probably North Cumbria up in South Scotland. We generally serve the whole of Cumbria. We have sort of small pockets of clients linked to sort of sporting events mainly, where Bobby and his dad and his two sisters have played rugby and cricket around the county. And we actually have clients, national clients. We have clients in Hertford, we have clients in London, we have clients in Nottingham and Sheffield. But if you're talking about the bulk of our clients, really, they're up here. They're North Cumbria and South Scotland. And it all started with Stan and Sandra. And Stan was a one-man band. And yet off he went. Stan's very innovative, and he's got real entrepreneur flair. So he was always looking for business opportunity, and he found it, and he built this business literally blood, sweat, and tears, and he worked long hours. Stan could not bear the thought that a client couldn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. Like he was hell bent on helping somebody get what they wanted. He didn't care what the lender said. It was going the client's way. And but that really stood him in good stead, because he became known for it. People were like, "Oh, Stan will sort you out. Go and see Stan." And he did that for years. That started in 1989. Bobby joined. When did Bobby joined? I'm going to say around 2000. No, it must have been maybe 2005 when Bobby came on board. And Bobby, so I think he always knew he was going to come into the family business. And he's very similar to Stan. He really, very deeply cares about the client, and if something's not going the client way, or something's taking longer, it really takes it out of him, and you can see it on his face. And at home, he gets very stressed because he wants the best for the client. I think in this industry, if you don't feel like that, at least to some degree, you're probably in the wrong job, because it is a slog. Getting sometimes, not always, but as you'll know, Craig, with like some clients, trying to achieve what they want to achieve within their budgets and within their timescales can be really, really hard work. And so if you don't have that real desire and drive to do it for them, then the job's not for you. That would be one piece of advice. But yeah, and so Bobby's made a real success of it as well. And obviously he's got the name above the door. Stan had a career-ending stroke in 2014, 4 weeks after we'd had our second baby. So that was a lot of change in our life. So Bobby was sort of thrust into this position, new office, new position in the business, and all with a 4-week-old baby at home. But you know what? We just did it. You just get on with it, don't you? It was instead of looking at it as a sad time, because Stan recovered. Stan's now doing very well. He still plays golf with Bobby. He walks, he's back, he can drive. There are definitely changes to his personality, which I think anybody who's experienced stroke will recognise, will understand that. But he's still here, he's still with us, he's very lively, got a great relationship with the grandkids, So I think looking back, we have to see all of these things as great opportunities rather than anything that's tinged with sadness. Because they were tough times, and they were stressful times. And I think Bobby took the brunt of it, because I was at home with the baby, and obviously Sandra was at home with Stan. But yeah, thinking back now, and with fast forwarding to 2021, there's been so much change. When you say like describe how the business was, oh gosh, where do we begin? We made, after Bobby took over, what happened was, to be very frank, there were a few cracks in the business, and they appeared because Stan wasn't here working 60-hour weeks. So what Stan was doing was papering over the cracks just by sheer work, just workload, more clients, let's get more clients in, let's keep the revenue going. And it was just, Stan's a workhorse, and he loved it. He loved what he did. But it wasn't very good for his health. And, 70-hour weeks, driving to see clients at all times of the night and day. And he obviously, when he went, that all stopped, and then these cracks started to appear. And so we had to look quite carefully at the business finances, where the revenue was coming from, who was generating what were we creating a risk, were enough clients being protected, were all those different things that go into the melting pot when you're running a business. And we had to make some quite severe structural changes in terms of staffing. And this was in 2000 I'll tell you it was March 2020, because we did it literally the week of lockdown. We've been going through this process from the January of the new year, and it all hit at the same time, so it was insane. But what happened was the people that we had sort of offered new contracts to and said we need to work in a very different way, two of them decided they didn't want to stay with us anymore. They couldn't get on board with the progression that we were trying to make, and one of them we actually just asked to leave in the end. It's that awful conversation with somebody where they've been with you a long time, but they're just not right. They just didn't, they were square peg in a round hole. It didn't work. It didn't fit. And there were lots of other because of that, there were lots of other issues being created around that particular person. So we had those very difficult conversations with high volume, possibly low quality to some degree, advisors. Low quality in terms of our decision, what we wanted to be our quality, Stan Sherlock Associates way, they didn't fit anymore. But what happened was our other mortgage advisors, who we always had this succession plan in place, were thrust into a new position at the same time as being sent home to work, at the same time as being locked down, not able to leave the house, at the same time as the lender shutting down, as the valuers not going out, and it all happened at once. And it was a very intense time, as it was for everybody. And it's not like nobody else understands. And so but then what happened was that became the catalyst for a lot more change, because then we were all at home, and the business had largely been built on word of mouth to that point. We did have a website. We set up the website in the December before we started making all these changes. We're like, right, we need to get on board with the 21st. We're in the 21st century, or 22nd century now. What century are we in? 21st?
Yeah, 21st century.
21st, thanks. Basic.
Yeah, no, 21st century. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
20th century. When was in the 1900s? Yeah, not 1900s, but in the when it was.
Yeah, now we're in the 20s. Yeah, I know we always want to head, don't we? So the 21st century. So we're moving slowly into the 21st century. Thank you, Craig. I'm making you doubt yourself there. And it became more apparent that we needed to do it a bit quicker. That was the sort of bottom line. We needed to move a bit quicker. I already had this sort of knowledge that we were looking at doing it, and we were always going to go this way, but we thought we had time and we were going to do it, slowly. And then it was like, no, actually, this can't be done slowly. We need to focus on new business now. We don't want to rely on the back book anymore. And there is that, some of the clients stuck with the advisor that left us. That's business. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And there's been other problems in the background that we won't go into now. But ultimately, it was a real drive for us to say, right, we need to focus on new business. And the way to focus on new business is to seriously look at our marketing strategy, what we do, why we do it, our brand awareness, what are we known for, what is our why, what are our values. So this all went into the melting pot, and we didn't rebuild the business from scratch, obviously, because Stan and Sandra had created this wonderful business with a fantastic scalable business support, fantastic founding structure was brilliant. And so we got that and built on it, but it was always built on word of mouth from this amazing reputation that Stan had built up, literally from just absolutely doggedly ensuring that the client got their way. They got what they needed. But we needed to change, because word of mouth isn't enough anymore. People don't necessarily ask their mum who the mortgage advisor is. They Google it on a Saturday night or Sunday night. Sat online going, oh, I need a bit of mortgage advice. Oh, I wonder who does that. Straight online, and same for Facebook, same for LinkedIn. They'll go and oh, I'm sure somebody posted something about that the other day. Who was it? And they'll scroll through. Oh, it was that person. Send you a message. So it just became really obvious that we could no longer rely on word of mouth. We had to have a bigger presence. We needed to make a bigger digital footprint. And so that's where we were, and now we're here.
Which I think which is exactly why I wanted to hear, and you've answered the questions that I were looking at, just to understand where you were at that particular time, Emma, because it would be easy as a successful financial services business, which, like you say, Stan started from, and you and Bobby have taken forward as well. But when you look at it, it would have been easy to just like continue with the word of mouth. I think the business was okay. Like I'm guessing everything was sort of doing okay in terms of the brand, and locally in award winning in sort of 2019, award winning again in 2020. So you've got a good brand and a good client base and good structure. And Bobby was busy, and you obviously got other advisors on board. But I think what's really interesting for me is you taking that decision at that time to think, do you know what, we need to really move this in a different direction, which is not different wholly. Not you're not turning a big sort of tank around, but just going in a different direction, which is very brave, to be honest with you, because I talk a lot about people being brave of going from employed to self-employed and doing very and like going from being an advice like a banking advisor to being a mortgage broker and things like that. Whereas for you, that was sort of a brave thing at the time. Think, you know what, this is the way that we want. We can see where the financial services industry is going with the likes of, like I said, the social media websites and things like that. And so for you, that was a big brave decision for you at that time. Think, you know what, let's turn this tank around a little bit and point it in a little bit of a different direction and go with it. And because you could have taken the easier route, which was just continue doing what you were doing.
I know it didn't feel easy. It did at the time. It
Did it
didn't
not?
feel easy at the time. It was, yeah, it was becoming a bit of a struggle. And I don't know if that's because I as an individual thrive on change. Like I love it. I love what we're going to do next. What's the next thing? Like I'm always moving. And we have lots of people in our business, in particular, that don't thrive on change. And so sometimes I'm like, come on, guys, what's wrong with you? Why can't you see why this change is so amazing? And they're like, oh God, not another change. But at the time, we were looking at a back book and we were thinking, like, those clients are really important. They've been really loyal to us for a long time. And we definitely need to service them. But they're all getting older, their mortgages are getting smaller, their protection needs are less. In terms of business and future business planning, we can't rely on the back book. So we had to sort of draw a line under that and go, do you know what? We will make sure that all of those clients are brilliantly serviced because they've been with us a long time and they deserve to be brilliantly serviced. But we need to go for the new business. We need fresh blood coming in. We need young people who understand our services. We need young people to have pensions and protection. We need to advise, the people coming into the mortgage market just as much as we do sort of the older generations who have perhaps, remortgaged 3, 4, 5 times. And so there was a bit of that. There was also Bobby and I are very passionate about our team, and we made the decision a little while ago that we would employ all of our staff. So we have no self-employed advisors anymore. Everybody who works with us is an employee, and there were lots of different factors as to why we thought that was necessary. One of them is, as awful as it sounds, a little bit of control. In that we're very strict with how our brand is used, and the only way we can really be very strict, we felt, was if they were employed and they're brand ambassadors. They're part of the business. They work under Sanchez Associates name, and we provide all of the marketing opportunities for them, but we market them. But it was important to us that they were looked after, felt part of the team, and we're a family business, and so they almost needed to be part of that family business, which it sounds so corny, doesn't it, to have like your work family. But that's what it is. Like a lot of our stuff, like Sandra's been with us 25 years. It might even be more than that now. And Net's been with us 6 and 17. Most of our advisors have been with us 8. So it's some of them even longer. So it just became very obvious to us that the way you say turning the tank, it really was turning it. It was turn the tank like quite slowly, but come on, everyone, let's give it a push. And a lot of them still aren't really on board with some of the marketing. They're not. They're going to have that creative flair by the end of the year, but they're not there yet.
But you've acknowledged that though, because you wouldn't, like you said, you sort of say about change. I use the word security with it. There's the people that want security and want that sort of that, like you say, they don't like change, that kind of thing. And there's people that like insecurity. I'm with you. I love insecurity. I love waking up today thinking, right, what we're going to do today, what we're going to, and like I say, sometimes I don't do it too much in the, I do it for my own stuff now, but not within the firm. I don't really, because the advisors were sort of going, oh, Craig, what are we changing now, Craig? What we're doing now? So I
You're on
have,
the rampage. Craig's on the
yeah,
rampage. That's what they say.
exactly.
Emma's on the rampage. Yeah.
Exactly, and that was the thing is that, and like they all got understood why I was looking to change the things I was changing. Whereas I've taken a bit of a foot off the gas with the change within the firm now, and I do look at like stuff that I'm doing myself in terms of the change. But because I do like that insecurity, I do think, right, let's what can we do? Like let's what like I've never done that before. It's like the podcast. It's like doing various like
Yeah.
for you of like I know we had conversations offline, but like about like social media and websites and all those sorts of things because that is and that's the sort of thing with it. Like I enjoy that kind of thing, which gives a certain insecurity because you don't know it. I'd never like thinking somebody said, "Oh, like be a good idea." I was a guest on a podcast, and that's how it all started. It's sort of like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do my own, like, I'm like a mortgage podcast now. So we'll do one about mortgages and about pension investments and things like that. And then now I'll do one with the mortgage brokers. But like we're 12 months ago. I think we just done released the episode 50 of the Mortgages, Money and More podcast. So it's only been a
Amazing.
year, but like now we sort of I love that sort of thing. And it's about I'm having insecurity about changes within the podcast, but it's still so this the security is still there from a podcast point of view, but the insecurity about what we're doing. But like I say, people who are thrive on security and want security do take a little bit longer to
Yeah.
change the way they're doing things. But you acknowledge that, like you say, there are people that you thrive on change, and you acknowledge people that don't like change. But
Yeah.
you have to change. We're like it's just
Well, we're not
sort of
in an
fact.
industry that stands still either, and that's what I sort of keep hammering home about at work. That we're not in a market where we have the luxury of just settling into our chair and sitting back. That's just not the way this market works. For the likes of Sanchez Associates, for you guys, we're up against NatWest, Nationwide, Halifax. So we're up against huge lenders. They essentially provide a service very similar to ours, nowhere near what we do. But to the average Joe, they don't necessarily understand that. It's got to be explained to them. They've got to understand what a broker provides, like how we provide it and why it's a better service. That we look at X number of lenders in the market, and if you go to your bank, they can only give you one or two products because that's all they've got to give you. But in terms of marketing machines that people are up against, they're huge multi-million-pound companies. So we can't just sit back in our chairs and go, oh, never mind. My best mate's going to recommend me to his best mate, and it's not enough these days because we're up against these huge multi-million-pound businesses who are pumping money in. They're pumping money into their marketing because they know it works. So we have to understand that if they're doing it, it must be working because look at the budgets they're spending on it. So you know,
Yeah.
so we've got to do it our way, and that's I'm very keen. Like you've got your thing, you've got your podcast, you've got your colours, you've got I see you on Instagram, I see you on Facebook, I see all the lovely creative things you do. I know you don't think you're very creative, and if it's not you doing it, then so be it. But obviously,
No,
it's not.
no.
Excuse me. But I do all of ours. With the skills I have, and I just love it. I love seeing like the YouTube page grow and albeit like we've gone on about how much I like change and I do like change, but there's also a consistency with marketing that you need. And that for me, when I watch it grow and you see so we do a thing on our YouTube channel where we answer questions. So we do 31 mortgage questions. Now we're on to our pension questions. The next one will be our investment questions. After that, we're doing insurance questions. Then we're doing equity release questions. We've got it's all planned out for the next like 12 months. And then, but what I do is I bring our advisors in. They have to record the answer to the question, and then it gets put out on all of our different services. So it goes on YouTube, our platforms, if you like, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I'm toying with Instagram at the moment because I think it's a different market and it's a global market, so it's harder to get any traction on it. But we'll see. I've opened up the account and I'm having a play. So there's my change. So that's it. I'm having a play with that. We'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Exactly.
But the YouTube
So,
channel is just wonderful. I love it. I absolutely love building that. We've only been building it now for about, I don't know what it is, a month or two, not long. The Facebook page has flown. Like that is just that took off really well, really quickly. And it's funny because now I look back at some of the first posts and I cringe and go, oh, why did I post that? Oh, God, no. And I haven't deleted them. I've left them on. So actually, you know what? Let's just leave them there for prosperity. It's, you know, it's our history. It's where we started. It's, you know, and so like there was one post I put a big bright red heart, it was a big rose and had a heart in the middle of it and it said, Happy Valentine's Day from Sanchez Associates. I was like, oh, why did I post that? Because I was thinking, people don't come to Sanchez Associates because they want to be wished Happy Valentine's Day. They come to us for blooming financial advice. So I just cringe every time I see it. But I've left it there. So if you want to go and have a look, it's really cringy, but it's there.
I am gonna look at that. I was just about to, while you were talking away there, thinking I'm gonna give it a look on Facebook.
Excuse me, sorry.
But you're right. It's good to look back on that though, because you acknowledge where you've grown and where you've come from and how you started out and where you've got to today. And I think what sort of came first. I'm trying to understand like the process from a point of view in from your own marketing point of view to think, right, okay, well, was it the website that was first? Was it YouTube that was the main thing? Was it what was the process in your head? What was the first starting point with it really?
Let me write this down because I work better if I have an image in front of me. So I think we did website.
That's your creative side again coming out there.
Yes, I'll write it down. I put it down in front of me and I remember. So I think we did website, Facebook. Website, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So here we go. Right. So the website came first, and our first version of our website was lovely in terms of our branding. Like, had all the right colors, photographs, and everything, but was rubbish in terms of SEO. So we had to work really hard on the SEO. And as we started to work on the SEO, at the same time, we made all of our advisors have a LinkedIn page, so that if people were looking on the website and they wanted to find the advisor, they'd also find them on LinkedIn. We thought that was really important, that they could find them somewhere else as a human being. And then after LinkedIn, we started to build a Facebook page because we realized that in actual fact, if the website's going to take quite a long time for the SEO to register, for it to start ranking, we need another outlet. And it became really obvious at the time, sort of 18 months ago, when was it, March 2020, that or was it January or March 2020, that why aren't we harvesting Facebook contacts? Why aren't we marketing to the people who know us best, the people who already trust us? So we set up the Facebook page. I think we've got just over maybe 1,000 followers. So that was in a year. So that, you know, we hit the 1,000 mark about a year, at the year mark, I think it was, which I'm told is very good for a sort of small family business in Carlisle. But we're pleased with that as well, because that has grown purely on engaging content. That has grown from people finding us on the news feed and going, well, they're interesting. They're saying something that I'm interested in and liking it. But then what happened was they all go hand in hand. So every time I posted a blog or something interesting to the website, I then put the link on Facebook, put the link on LinkedIn, and then it drives people to the website. And then that also, the more people you have visiting your website or going on Google, Google My Business, that sort of thing, it increases your authority. And then so you move up the rankings, you get the SEO right. Anyway, now I think we rank top for some things, which is brilliant. You know, that's literally like I want to have a trophy that I carry around me all day. We rank top. And then there's other things.
That's what it's all about. It's about being top. That's what it's all about, Emma. It's about ranking first. So that's why you do it. So you're right. It's a good point. There should be a trophy handed around saying we rank first on Google.
Yeah, just carry it around. And then there's a few things we don't rank quite as highly on yet, but they're the sorts of things now I'm working on and creating. I'm looking at the wording, the copy we have on the website to see if that's a problem. But at the same time, it might just be that we're not as well known for it, or it's not that we're not. We haven't got the backlinks and the authority. Maybe we're not registering within enough of those in terms of those particular subjects. So it's just looking at how we make sure that the website continues to rank at the same time as using other outlets like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. And the reason we went to YouTube, so we did website, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then YouTube. That's my most recent exciting venture. Because I think YouTube, rightly or wrongly, but I think in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, YouTube will be the go-to Google. I think the younger generations they're not going to go Google to find something, they're going to go YouTube to find something. Because just looking at my kids, everything is YouTube. I mean, everything. Like they go to YouTube for entertainment, they go to YouTube for information, they go to YouTube if they want to know how to play a game, what's the best controller for the Xbox, whatever it is they're looking for, they will go to YouTube. And if they're doing that, and the oldest one is 10, she's 10 in September, then the kids around that, if they're 15, in 5 years and they're 20 and they're looking at buying houses, you need to go on YouTube. So
Exactly.
that's what we're doing
I
now.
agree with you. I think that's a big thing. I think that's one thing that people forget within the social media. But I think it's because I think giving your background will help in terms of creating a YouTube channel and doing what you do. But I think a lot of people will sort of, oh my God, like Facebook's enough for them, or LinkedIn or something like that. Then you talk about Insta, and then you talk about TikTok, and then you talk about, you're just like, wow, like YouTube's just like way down the line. But I agree with you 100% with regards to people finding stuff. Like, everybody uses YouTube now as a Google of how to do this or how to do that or what. And you're absolutely right. I use YouTube every morning. I use YouTube every night. And I think, like, I know my son, who's sort of coming to 16, he's on YouTube constantly watching
Yeah,
like the new games coming out. How do I play that? How can I do this? And so you're right. You've sort of seen that gap there, and you're already creating content around that, which will then be there for the length of time. So you are
yeah.
answering
We've
the
got to build
question
it
when
now. So when our audience now is probably not really old enough to buy a house. If truth be told, we're building this channel for them in 5 years. So like you say, your son, he's not old enough now to buy a house, but his go-to point for searching is YouTube. And that's the same with all my kids. It's where all of the younger folk are going. They're not Googling it anymore. They're going to YouTube. And if that's the case, you want the spider legs to be ranking your YouTube videos at the top, so that when they say, when I still go Google, I mean, it's when they search or when they YouTube, how do I get a mortgage? Your video is the one at the top, or I don't know, how do I increase my credit score? Because they've been told by somebody your credit score is low. You want to rank at the top so that they're seeing your brand, they're seeing your information, and it's good, engaging content that's correct, that isn't selling like that. You cannot sell to people constantly. You can't
no,
advertise to them. You've got to give them information. If they like the information, they like you, they'll come back.
exactly. And what a great way to give across your personality, giving the information and a captive audience that are searching for your particular product, so like, or searching for your help with certain things. So, and like you say, those people will remember that and come back to you because they know where they got the answer to that question from. So you're more likely to buy from that person because you've seen the person, you trust them because you've got the information from them that you needed. So you're more likely to buy from them. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. I think that's really important. When I talk about all of these things, actually, all of the different platforms, website, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and I said I'm playing with Instagram, and you mentioned TikTok. I'll tell you about that one in a minute. Um, it's it's important that the content is engaging and correct. I've got a big emphasis on our advisors at the minute, where I say to them, smile, for God's sake, smile. Like, you're talking to another human being through this thing. Like, don't just, some of them are like, yes, you can have a mortgage. And it's just not natural to them. It's not what they do. They didn't expect to become a mortgage advisor for me to plonk them in front of a camera and say, right, I want you to create a promotional video, but I don't want you to advertise, I don't want you to sell. I just want you to tell people some information. And they're like, can I have a script? I'm like, no, you can't. Why can't I have a script? Because you know it. I just want you to have a conversation. And I always say, pretend somebody is on the other side of the laptop or the other side of the phone, and you're just telling them. If someone asked you, I don't know, what sort of mortgage can I get for 600 quid a month? Just tell them what you'd
Yeah.
say. What would you
Yeah.
say? Because you know your staff, you're a good advisor. Just tell them what you would say. And they found a lot of them found that really hard, because I'm properly pushing them out of their comfort zones with this. But they're doing it, and they're doing it well. And I love the videos they're creating. Like, one of our advisors in particular is really not very comfortable doing them, but he reposts them and he just writes on them, "My God, look at me in this." It's just like, but the advice is right. What he's saying is correct. He's just not comfortable saying it on a screen. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with what they're doing. But it just has to be good, correct, engaging content on all those platforms. If you're just going to advertise to people, you might as well just tear a page out of a magazine and take a photograph of it and stick it on Facebook. And if you're going to, that's the impact you're going to have if you're going to advertise. You're not going to get the engagement, you're not going to get the interest, and I also don't believe that you create the trust that you do with sort of informative, engaging content.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. You said something about TikTok, so I'm interested
Oh
to
yeah.
hear more.
So all of our advisors are dreading. They're like, "Oh God, no! What's she talking about?" And the plan was the marketing strategy for this year was that by December we'd be on TikTok as a firm. We'd be on TikTok. But our advisors will be pleased to know, put the pause on it because I think they're really going to struggle with the volume and type of videos that need to be put onto TikTok. So I think we're going to get our YouTube channel and the rest of our platforms really firmly established and a system in place where, so for example, I'm setting up a studio in my office now because it can be a bit of a drag chasing people for recordings. So I said, right, you know what? To make things easier, I'm going to set up a studio in my office and I will book you for an hour and you will come in and you will answer the questions I need you to answer. And that's it. And a lot of them have actually said, I think that's a really good solution. Thank you. Yes, please do that. But I think also what it does for them is it takes an element of panic away because there's somebody else looking after the recording. They don't need to worry about the framing. They don't need to worry about the phone. They don't need to worry about where it is or the angle of it or the light. They just need to say what they need to say. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I need to get that studio set up, get them really used to the sort of conveyor belt of videos that we're going to be creating for all of our different platforms. And once we're there, then we're going to take a look at TikTok.
Okay. The relief that I now can hear from all the advisors at
Like,
Stan Sherlock about you
yeah,
no longer. Emma's not on one about that flaming TikTok again. So yeah,
yeah.
that is
No,
great.
they can breathe a sigh of relief. It's not coming yet, but it will.
But just to wrap up, really, Emma, I'm just quite conscious in terms of taking a lot of your time. We talked a little bit before about because clearly you've got your creative side. Clearly, you're taking Stan Sherlock forward with regards to your YouTube channel and seeing real potential in that. And I totally understand why you're doing that and the foundations that you're putting that on, which is a real sort of solid foundation. We had a bit of a conversation just a little bit about sort of a new company and like something new venture that you're doing. Because obviously you like change, so you're not content with doing what you're doing at Stan
Why not
Sherlock.
add
So
something else to the mix? Yeah.
exactly. So what's going on with Emma then now moving forward? What's the new thing that's happening?
It's Bobby and I actually. We just decided that we've had over the last year because of the success we've had in our social media marketing, creating this digital footprint, both locally and also wider across our network, Openwork. There's been a lot of interest in what we've done, and I'd started working for people for free. And Bobby, well, it's actually Bobby's dad. It was Stan that said, "What are you doing?" Like, entrepreneur Stan, straight in there. What are you doing? This is this opportunity. And Bobby and I, we sort of sat down and thought about it. So could it work for us? Basically, what's happened is we've set up another arm of the business called Emma Sherlock Consulting. And what I'm going to do is the best way to describe it, which I hate actually using this phrase, but I can't think of a better one. I need to think of a better one. But it's like a social media MOT. So I will, let's say you came to me and said, look, I want to know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. I will go through one platform, two platforms, however many it is you have you'd like me to look at, and look through it and say, look, there's no consistency, there's no clarity, there's no this, or you're doing all this brilliantly, but what's letting you down is X or Y. Create a report for them, tell them what's gone wrong or what's going well, as the case may be, and then give them that report for them to do what they wish with. So I'm not going down the coaching side of things because I don't think that's for me. And also what I don't want to do is pull too much of my time away from Stan Sherlock Associates because actually I really enjoy what we're creating here. I love looking after the staff. I love pushing forward the marketing and watching the leads grow and seeing, I get a thrill every time. It doesn't matter how many times a day, every time a new lead comes in and it says it's from the website from Google, I'm like, there's another. I just love it. And so I'm really enjoying that side of things. But what became really obvious is that actually I do have a skill and a talent that we weren't using that we could create this other business with. So I'm largely working at first with financial services companies because that's where I've had the success. And then from there, who knows after that. So yeah, Emma Sherlock Consulting. It's the new brand that we're working on. It's very small right now. It's like in its first stages. But yeah, I was doing it for free anyway. People were saying to me, "Oh, can you have a look at my page and know what I'm doing right or wrong?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was taking like half an hour, going through these people's pages out of my working day, then writing them a little report, sent to them, and then it was Stan said, "Why are you doing that for free?" And actually, I have a coach who really does help me, Ash Borland. He's a fantastic creative mind, and I really find him very useful in terms of bouncing ideas off him and creating new things. And he's also fantastic in terms of, like, he won't mind me saying this, the geeky stuff. Like, he's great with cameras and microphones and lighting, and the best way to move things forward. And so what I would like to recommend to people is, if I've done one of these MOTs, who have given you this report, and then you're wanting me to coach you, actually Ash is better. I don't have the geekiness behind me. I don't have that knowledge of all the different softwares and all the different equipment and things that you could eventually buy. You don't need them straight away, but if you want that type of coaching, that's what I would do. I would direct you to Ash. But initially, Emma Sherlock Consulting, if you just want someone to give you a health check on your social media in terms of, like, what you're doing, why you're doing it, does it have consistency, does it have clarity, can you tell it's all one brand, can you tell what you're selling, then I'm pretty well placed to do that.
Which is right for you to do that, because at the end of the day, like you say, you're learning, you're developing, you're learning, which is costing you money, whether that's time or actually physical money. So, and you work with Ash, like you say, in terms of your learning, and you've got a coach. So why should you not? You're then getting asked questions based on your skill. So rightly, you should be able to charge a fee or whatever that is. And I think the beauty of that, I mean, is that you've sort of quickly realised that something, all you're doing is an MOT. You're not looking at the fix. You're not looking at actually working with them long term and stuff like that. It's a quick case of, this is the situation. This is what your issues are. This is your MOT, shall we say, or whatever, and this is what you need to put right. And then I'll put you in touch with the person that can work with you to do those sorts of things. So
Yeah, they can't really come to me. I could give them the answers, but I'd have the time. So they could come and say, let's say I looked at somebody's Facebook page and I said, look, you've just got no brand consistency. Like, the information you're putting out there is great, but you can't tell it's from your company. You can't tell it's from your brand. That's I can see that they're putting in the effort, they're just not hitting the mark. They're not quite getting where they need to be. If they ask me, how do I fix that, I can tell them how to fix it. But if they really want someone to coach them through it so that they're doing it really well, I'm not the person to do that for them. But it's it's that. What I think the best way to describe it is probably MOT or health check, or looking over the things that you've got in place already and how you make those better. And I won't beat about the bush. It's hard work, that, especially getting it going, it's time consuming, and getting it right is difficult. But once you've got it and you can scale it up, once you've got a template, or once you've got something in place, or you've got a system, or I think we started off with the 1 to 31 scheme, where we just did a post a day for a month, but creating those posts and getting them ready to go out, but then you just run them again. So the second month, it's not quite as difficult, but that first month you're just overwhelmed, aren't you, by the amount, you're like, oh my God, I've got to create 31 posts, one to go out every day. But as well, then those posts you're creating, what are they about? Are you focusing on mortgages? Are you focusing on pensions? Are you focusing on investments? Are you focusing on insurance? Are you focusing on all four? What are your content pillars? What are your brand colors? What type of business are you? People coming to you for information? Are they coming to you for entertainment? Are they coming to you to network? Having that consistency in your brand. I can teach you about that, and I can tell you about that, and I can tell you what you're doing wrong. But ultimately, you've got to put the work in yourself. You've got to be able to create the engaging content, and I can teach you. I can tell you about what it is you're not doing properly. You might have great content, but you're just not quite packaging it correctly, or you might have great packaging but crap content. In which they need to go hand in hand. And then ultimately, once you've got all that right, you've got to back it up with the actual advice.
Yeah. Which, and like you say, you're throwing it, but it's their responsibility. You're not taking that responsibility on board. It's their responsibility to move that forward and to fix the issues that you've sort of highlighted and created. And it is always about consistency and clarity and those sorts of things. So,
and frequency. Like, one big thing is people don't understand, it's free with social media. It's frequency. You've got to be out there all the time. You've got to be in people's faces. And people think, oh God, no, I don't want to post 3 times a day. I'm bombarding people. Something like 5% of your followers see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's lots of different little tweaks you can make that aren't. If you're already doing it, especially, and I'm just giving you a sort of health check, it might not take a lot. It might just be the odd little tweak. But
exactly.
But yeah, so that's the new venture. That's the new branch of Sanchez Associates, is Emma Sherlock Consulting. But I have to make it very clear, we're not linked. The network can have a fit. We're not linked. We're separate businesses.
Just so we're clear, it's
Yeah,
totally separate to Stan Sherlock Associates, which is part of Open Work. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's fine, fine. Emma, anything else we've not talked about? Anything else we've missed off or anything like that? I think we've covered a lot today.
No, I don't think so. I just hope it was really useful for people. It's, it's one of those things, isn't it? You talk about all this stuff, and it's actually really therapeutic because I'd be like, oh yeah, look at that, look what that we've achieved in the last 18 months. That's amazing. You don't always think about it, do you? Just getting on with the daily grind. So it's nice to have the opportunity to talk about it, and hopefully other people will find it useful and take something away from it.
No, I think people do the feedback I get all the time is about people are unsure about doing these things, or they want to hear about people that have done it and experienced it, what they've learned from it, and whether that's doing social media, whether that's whatever things you're doing, it's sort of people want to hear from people that have experienced that already or have gone through it, and that's why people listen to the podcast is then I'm thinking about going self-employed, or I think about becoming a mortgage broker, or I think I need to sort my social media out, or I want to do this. It's just very clear that there's a lot of gaps with people's knowledge, and just once they've got that knowledge, then they will have that confidence to do it, and the quicker they can sort of bridge those gaps for people, then it is. And like for you, you've covered a lot of ground in the last 12 months or so, 18 months. A lot of change happened, and you've covered a lot of ground in that short period of time. So who knows what the next 18 months look like, and I'm no doubt you'll be back on the podcast talking about what the change and talking more about sort of your new venture and talking about Emma Sherlock consultancy and not talking about Stan Sherlock kind of thing. So because people want to hear about that, people want to understand, because people are busy and mortgage brokers are busy. So if we can reduce that friction and make it easier for brokers to do these sorts of things, and if you can give that MOT, yes, it's going to cost them a bit of time and a bit of money, but you're going to give them that MOT, it creates less friction for them, and they're more likely to do it. So
It's only
no
200
doubt,
quid. It's not a lot.
no,
There's the charge, 200 quid. If you want me to look at your social media, it's £200.
right.
But the other thing I'll say is when people say to me, I don't have time, or it's too hard, or I'm not creative enough, my heart sinks because I have 3 children, aged 9, 7, and 3. I run a business. I'm setting up a new business. I currently live in a caravan because I'm building my own house, and I look after a team of 15 people with all their own needs and problems and children and stresses. And so said so and so, and that's upset me. So when somebody says to me, "I'm too busy," I think you just take a long hard look at your day and you tell me really how busy you are. Because if you can't find an hour for your own business, for your own income, for your own clients, if you can't find that hour, you're possibly doing something wrong.
Emma, we're going to end on that very poignant message right at the end. So, Emma, I will tag you. People will have your contact details when we post this. So, and
So
obviously, we can find you on LinkedIn. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your honesty, because like you say, you give us a real honest account of where you've come from, honest account of your learning and the battles that you faced and where you are now. So, I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.